Okay, welcome to another fascinating math video with Mr. White. Yeah, I know it's not mostly fascinating, but that's all right. Let's get to it. We're going to be talking about inequalities, and specifically, we're going to be given some information about how two variables compare, and then we're going to have to make a statement about a different expression and how they relate. So we have to use a little bit of logic and some thinking skills here. And once you get the hang of this, it's not too bad, but it may be a bit tricky at first until you learn a few tricks of the trade here. So, section 4, inequalities of expression. So let's start with this. We know that not all numbers are equal. Each pair of numbers is either the same, or maybe the first is bigger than the second, or maybe vice versa. Maybe the second is bigger. Okay, this is that concept of inequality. One of three things has to be true. So if I pick 4, you pick 4, we're equal. If you pick 2, I pick 9, then mine's bigger than yours. 2 is less than 9. Vice versa here, if you pick 8 and I pick 6, then your number's bigger than mine. Okay, so those are the three possibilities um, in the world when you pick two numbers. So how does this work with variables? Because variables play this game called math just like numbers. So how does this work with x and y? Is x greater than y? What do you think? Speak up. What do you think? Right. We don't know. We don't know. We have to have more information. We literally don't know. Since a variable is some unknown quantity, it would be impossible to determine unless we had more information. Now, in this particular case, we do have more information. So let's let F be the degrees Fahrenheit, whereas C is the degrees Celsius. So which one's bigger there? Well, we do have information. We have a formula that relates one to the other. So let's see that formula. The formula, there's different ways to write it, but it's right here. F is always 32 bigger plus 1.8 times the degrees Celsius. So 32 bigger than 1.8 times the Celsius. Now I want you to, let me highlight this side. This side is all about starting with the C, the degrees Celsius, multiplying by 1.8, that makes it bigger, and then adding 32, that makes it bigger again. Okay, so everything on the right side of that equation starts with C and then just makes it bigger. So that's why we can safely say that F is always bigger than C. Now, if you didn't catch all that, you might want to just rewind a minute and a half and listen to me say that again. Okay, the right side is all about starting with C, making it bigger. So therefore, um, F is always going to be bigger than C no matter what. All right, let's take a look down here. What inequality would compare X and Y? Is it X is bigger than Y, or is Y bigger than X? Which one is it? Well, why don't you think about it for a second? Okay. Well, I think we're starting with X on the right side. We're doubling it. Well, that sounds like getting bigger. And then adding 1. That sounds like getting bigger again. So it sounds to me like Y is always going to be bigger than X, no matter what you plug in. However, there was nothing in here that said they both had to be positive. Okay, it works if if x and y are both positive numbers. If x is a positive number, then yes, y is going to be. But let's see if x is negative, what happens? Let's try plugging a number in. Let's try negative 100 for x. And let's see what y comes out to be. This would be negative 200 plus 1. That's negative 199. Negative 199. Now, how does negative 199 compare to negative 100? Which way will the inequality go? Well, it would go this way. All right, and this is actually y and x. So look at that. On one side, the alligator is eating the X. On the other side, the alligator is eating the Y. So we actually don't know. So it's one of the two. It's one of the two. All right, that's all we can say here. So you have to consider negatives also. We can also start with a premise and compare new expressions based on the original statement. So if I tell you that x plus y, if I tell you that I'm not x plus y, if I tell you that x is greater than y, apparently my coffee isn't strong enough this morning. If I tell you that x is bigger than y, how do these two statements, they're called expressions, how do they compare? Which way would the inequality go? This way or this way? I want you to think about it. If this is always bigger than that, if the x is always bigger than the y, and you're adding 2 to both sides, wouldn't you agree that the 2 basically does nothing here as far as changing the balance of which side's bigger or not? Because you're just putting 2 pounds on both sides of this, two numbers. So if x is bigger than y, then x plus 2 would have to be bigger than y plus 2. So you do a little logic. This is logic is what it is. A little thinking. And I know for me, it's Monday morning, early Monday morning when I'm recording this video. So a little bit of logic is not maybe my friend at this point. Let's take a look at this. What if m is bigger than n? M is bigger than n here. And we're going to start with 500 on both sides, and we're going to subtract m and n off. Now, which side would be bigger now? We're starting with 500 and we're subtracting m off. Now remember, m is bigger. M as in Mary is bigger than n as in Nancy. So this side here has this statement. Let me highlight the bigger one. This is bigger than the n. So what happens when you take 500 and you subtract a big number? Don't you get a small number left? Whereas if you take 500 and you subtract a small number, because remember, m as in Mary is bigger than n, then what happens is this side is going to be bigger this time. The inequality is actually facing the other way. So you have to kind of play with numbers sometimes. Like you'd say, well, what if m were 100 and n were 1? Well, then this side would be 499, because 500 minus 1 is 499. And this side is 500 minus 100 would be 400. So the inequality would go this way, which is exactly what I put there. You see how that works? So you start with a premise. This is called a premise. It's a fact that's true. Maybe you remember in geometry doing geometry proofs. You may have started with some givens. Those are a premise. Okay. So we said that 500 plus n would be smaller. Okay, how about this one here? We're almost done here, guys. So stick with me. If u is smaller than t, so this guy is smaller than the other side. So this is small, and this is big. Which one's larger? Which one's larger? Or we're taking a small and we're adding 5, but then we're taking a big and we're adding only 3. Only 3, that's a small amount. So if we're mixing smalls and bigs here, so we actually can't tell in this problem. I could do some different examples and I could get the inequality to go this way on one example and go this way on the other, depending on what I pick for u or t. Okay, so if you take a small number and you add 5 versus a big number and then you add only 3, you see how they're kind of working against each other. And this is not, we don't have a clear answer here. So this would be impossible to determine. All right, so that wraps it up for this section. You're going to be comparing expressions based on a premise that's given. So let me know if you have any questions, but you can jump on and work on that Google form during your workday. All right, we'll talk to you later. We will practice also in our live session. Good luck.